Welcome back to another morning of wrenching on the snapper. In this episode, we're going to work on the rear axle, figure out what's going on there, and hopefully get something done. Stick around. Hey fellas, since we last talked, a week has gone by. During the course of that week, I've kept my mixture of transmission fluid, Marvel Mystery Oil, and penetrating oil in the old differential. 90% of it has leaked out, but over the course of the week, I've just come through here and just periodically spun the axle, and she spins like butter now. Now that we've got the axle sufficiently loosened up and cleaned fairly well, except where it's leaked everywhere, we need to go ahead and pull this unit out. I was looking on the parts manual online, and this axle and all that comes out as one assembly. So looks, from just looking at it, we pop this nut out and this assembly comes this way, and there's a bolt here that goes over this little belt guard, and then a bolt right here, and this whole assembly should drop out. I'll go ahead and pull this wheel off too, and we'll have to partially disassemble most of this section. I don't know exactly what I'm getting into yet, so I want to set you up and you can watch, see if it works out or if it don't. So we're gonna just do this now because I really don't know what I'm getting into there. As far as what parts I'm gonna need, what seals, bushings, some of that stuff I might have to have made if I can't find it. This one's plastic, so if push comes to shove, I can just beat it off with a hammer and break it. Okay. Well, that almost went in my bucket of soup. Go to beating on it with a hammer, I suppose. It's not restorable anyways. Sweet. Cool. Now the wheels and tires I showed you, so if I could direct your attention right about here, I believe this is a pressed in bearing with the rubber seal, and this part here, this inner part, is supposed to be, tighter than this. It looks like the center part of it is kind of seized to this shaft. It spins like it's supposed to, but it's got a lot of lateral movement here. I don't know if that'd be lateral, but it's not supposed to do that. So when we get it loose over there, it's gonna be kind of dangling on this. So I think what I'm gonna do is get my punch in here on the inside edge of it, see if I can knock it that direction, get it worked free so that when that shaft goes that way, it'll come out. I do believe that this inner steel part here, my fingernails on, is supposed to stay with this. Don't know that for sure, but that makes sense. So I'm gonna get my punch and kind of punch around on that. Then we'll proceed to going over there and taking that apart. Look at that. It's a factory style throttle assembly. It mounts way up here on the top of the handlebars. I'll show you that later, but it's got the kill position all the way back. It's got the slow, fast, and then the full forward choke. So that was a good score. I think it's 15 bucks. It'll give us some throttle control that we did not have before. Well, if I could direct your attention to this area. This piece here basically locks the axle from doing this number. There's a bolt here and this bolt here that goes to the handlebars. It's got a ton of slop here where that bolt is, and also here. This bracket here I think is ovaled out, so we're gonna have to look at re-drilling that and putting a bushing in it. But for right now, I need to take that nut off, that bolt out. This one. Make sure I'm in reverse. Yep. Lefty loosey. It looks like it's already got a bushing in there, which would actually make it easier, but I don't think it's supposed to have that much slop. might have some struggles when it comes to finding some parts for this thing. There is a mower salvage yard that's just a few miles down the road that's got, I would guess, probably 1,000 old lawnmowers out back, maybe more than that. But anytime I've ever tried to buy anything in the past off their parts mowers, they haven't ever wanted to sell them. So I don't know. I don't know why you would keep 9 billion old mowers on hand, but then not sell any parts off of them. It's not like they're a lot of scrap value or anything. But to each his own, I suppose. A lot of stuff that I do, people would say I'm crazy for. People do say I'm crazy for, actually. I don't care. A lot of fellas would wonder why in the world I would spend a bunch of time working on something like this. Something that's so severely worn and basically a castaway. Well, there's no logical answer for that. Only answer I can give for that is I love machines and I love a good challenge. So that is why. What I got to try to do is get this belt out between this and this. I don't want to damage the belt. It's very, very antiquated, to say the least. Let's see, get it kind of just one good screwdriver jab away from coming apart, probably. I can actually buy these brand new, so I found them. Okay, I got it to where I think it'll go through. Okay, it's through. Just gotta rotate it out. I think this bracket here comes off, but I'm not confident that it doesn't. That there's not nuts on the bolts on the inside. We don't have that open yet. Could y'all give me a hand for a second? Try to roll it out. Ow. My fingers aren't as limber as they used to be. Come on, belt. Give me a little. I don't want to pull on it. There she goes. That belt is not happy. She ain't wanting to play well in this department here. Not sure what the best tactic there would be. Suppose I could put the nut back on and just peck on the end of it with a hammer to see if I can get it to move. This axle's actually quite heavy. Heavier than I thought it would be anyways. I think what I'm going to have to do is safety wire this up so it's not dangling. I'm just going to have to get in here with the chisel and just kind of peck my way around it. It's going to take a minute. I'll have to give it some breaks with penetrating oil, let it sit for 5-10 minutes. Safety wire out of the way. Come on, sweet pea. Kind of awkward. Okay. What are we hanging up on? Here's a little bit of, give you a little bit of my all or nothing spray here. There she comes. Victory! Get this leaky thing set down. I do believe a pretty clean, heavy cleaning of this guy is in order. I got the little unit cleaned up. I can kind of see everything. Those appear to just be a regular lip seal. I don't know if there's a bearing behind it or not. I would assume there is. Did also notice this little washer assembly here is split. It's kind of like a shape like this, so it's designed to put a certain amount of load on it. So I'll have to end up welding that up if it's a metal that can be welded. My main concern with this case is how much slop there is right here. It's hard to pick up on a camera, but it's got a lot of movement. So, that being said, somewhere right in there is some kind of a bushing or bearing. I did find a parts diagram for this with part numbers and stuff, so that will be helpful. What do you say we go ahead and tear this down? You can't really get a socket on there. I mean, it's machined, but there ain't much room there. I don't know what kind of super short wrenches the Snapper company used, but I don't have any. Well, I'm gonna do that like, let's see, 3 more times. Bring you back shortly. Well, I got all the bolts out, I think. We're gonna see what we find when we split these cases apart. I'm not sure exactly how that's supposed to happen. I got a drawing of it, but it's not real clear, kinda, what goes where necessarily as far as how it comes apart. So I think we're gonna hold her like that. I also noticed there's a ton of play like this way in the shaft. So I got a feeling it's gonna look pretty bad in here. Don't be bashful. So, looks like potentially this needs to come off before we can split these. I don't want to break this aluminum wheel. I'll be screwed if I did that. Okay, I'll see if that will allow us to come apart. It's slippery. Okay, that little fell out of the way. Woo, that's got a lot of junk in it. See, from what I can tell, looking at the diagram, the parts diagram, this is a clutch type assembly. She's got a lot of chewy on them gears. It's had water setting in it. Not pretty. That would definitely explain where all the crunchy was coming from. Check that out. Look at all that. Okay, so all that side stayed together. So I'm gonna go ahead and spin this nut off here. Get everything out of the way. Get rid of this half. Yeah, look at that. Nasty. Yeah, that bearing is wasted. Wasted completely. Hopefully it's got some part numbers off of it, or I might can find part numbers in the little manual I found a parts diagram of. So then I should be able to slide this fella out. Actually all the way off. Just throw that nut in the floor there. Okay. Same story, just nasty. Yeah, this thing's got a lot of miles on it. This assembly here is a set of planetary gears. There's little gears inside of here that they all rotate and mesh together, or they at some point in time was supposed to. So the idea was, this is a differential. Basically, this half and this half should be able to spin independently. That is clearly not the case. They are seized together from rust and whatnot. Can you see them gears? You got chunks missing out of them. I could probably weld those and carefully regrind them. So I think that's going to be the. Okay, see how the axle shafts will move in and out? These should also rotate this way, but the planetary gears in there are all rusted up. So we'll have to pull it all apart. Hopefully they're serviceable. If not, she's going to have a solid lock posi forever. That is just nasty. I just don't know if this unit's going to end up being salvageable. I mean, the teeth, I can fix that, especially with a low RPM application. It's not like a 800 horse big block, but the corrosion is extensive. I mean, that nut is just rusted away. That one's on its way. See this whole lower half from, you know, a line there, this whole lower half had water in it. Down there it's all right. Up there, not so much. When we last spoke, we were kind of up the proverbial creek without a paddle. We had, these have all dried since we talked last. This stuff was in pretty bad shape. I mean, technically this thing would roll, but, you know, not be effective and not be able to differential action itself so that we could turn left or right easily. This was our internal gear set section. Not in good shape. We did have our housing sandblasted. These are in good shape. The little bracket that mounts the wheel. So since this point in time, which has been a couple of weeks for me and 12 seconds for you, got to show you something. Santa came in February. I was able to find some OEM snapper parts online. Very nice couple sold them to me. Gave me a good deal. We have a complete transaxle assembly. Spins, turns, there's virtually no noticeable wear. It's from a slightly newer machine, but it's the essentially the same unit. We also got from the same machine a real good set of wheels and tires, front and back. So I'm super stoked about that. The fronts are in a different box. This is a different subject. This didn't come with this, but this is your back axle bearing. These are both completely shot, the bearings, so I'm waiting for those to show up. See how much play that's got. So we're gonna put 2 new bearings in there. That way this thing will be solidly mounted. But back to the wheels, these are in pretty good shape. No rust whatsoever. And they're a whole lot better than this junk that was on it. These plastic wheels just don't look right on an old machine. It only had one of these back ones. And those 2 came from that parts mower. So I'll have a complete set of matching original style snapper wheels. This is an original one that was on this mower, and it's absolutely destroyed, as you can tell. So they're not identical in size, but they are definitely close enough. They got the same kind of metal hub on them with little bumps around the perimeter, those guys. We're gonna take the gear set out of that axle, this junk, and put it into these. So here directly, we're gonna set you up and we're gonna paint these. I bought some red spray paint. Gonna be shiny and brand new looking on a not shiny and not brand new looking mower. About to throw a little paint on these guys. Couple of light coats. Always put a real light tack coat on just to get your initial paint bite with a rattle can, or even with a full-on paint gun. I'm not gonna go any more exotic than Snapper was when they painted theirs, so that's a good first coat. See, it's still pretty transparent. Bring it back for the second. All right, second coat. This is gonna be kind of a coverage coat. That should do it. Put a little on this guy too. Where are you at? There you are. Also stuck my bolt heads in there and put the last coat of paint on this little guy. I think what I'm gonna do is put the axle shafts that I put through the sandblaster, put them together, put the housing together, and then put the bolts in it so that my bolts in the housing are all painted and there's no chipping on the bolts when I try to put them in. So, well, from this pile of parts comes this pile of parts. It's a good looking unit. I already had sandblasted those, y'all. I also used the new axles and all the guts, ran them through the blaster, just put a coat of paint on them. This is the original pulley. I was gonna use it, but it's got some, where's it at? Somewhere on the face of it, it's got some pretty bad pits in it. Oh, there they are. Some pretty good chunks missing out of it from when it was setting, you know, with water and mud in it. So we're gonna use this one that came on that guy over there. It's in pretty good shape and it's got some pretty durable, some kind of paint on it. It's the same size. It's got a bigger guard on the back. So we're gonna use this. And our original keeper mount bracket kind of goes over that guy like that. So this is ready to go back in. I do need to put fresh oil in it. I might flush it before I put it on, but it does need fresh oil. Another thing that came in is the bearing to replace these. That guy right there. Got two of those. Fortunately, those are pretty easy to get. Apparently, a lot of different mowers use the same kind of design. Now, it's designed to be kind of a sort of a press fit. And then, as you can see, these guys are just kind of smashed down. It's just pushed in. That flange retains it. And on this side, they just dimpled it. I can't do that. So I'm probably just going to put a few tack welds on it. So I'll take the other one off, that guy, and do them one at a time so I don't mix them up. But yeah, look how bad this bearing is. Like this movement left and right, and then I mean, it's just up and down. There's nothing left. The balls in there are gone. So I'm gonna put two of those in there. Once we get the pulley back on that, the little bracket back on it, those back in, we can hang the axle back in it. Well, I have zipped the tabs off. Let's see if it'll knock it out or not. Let's see. It's moving it. He's coming. She's about a half a schwack from coming out, I think. Ha! It's a win for Team Us. So here we've got the new one and the old one. They're pretty much identical. And in y'all watching me whack that thing out of there and just kind of mocking this one up, to me it does look like a press fit. So that being said, I really don't think that these little marks, the little indentations, the little crimps, I don't think them are necessary to retain the thing. So I think what I'm going to do is I'll clean that up just a tiny bit with a Dremel tool. I think I'm going to stick these bearings in the freezer overnight, and in the morning heat these things up and set it on a block of wood with a socket under it and just tap them things in there. Figured y'all would want to watch this process. I've got my bearing that's been in the freezer all night. Got my ring I kind of cleaned up some. Heat it up real quick. I'm planning on sandblasting and painting these. but you can't heat it up after you painted it like this and burn the paint off. So I'm doing the bearing first. I'm gonna make sure there's no rust underneath where the bearing is gonna be sitting. I don't have to get this super hot because this isn't a really tight press fit. Don't need to like turn it red or anything. Probably should do it left-handed here. Try not to burn myself. Set that where it needs to be. Drop my little bearing on there. My little cup on there. Make sure she's seated. Perfectly seated. Yeah. And there you have it. Easy as can be. It's ready to go back on. Doesn't matter. Maybe I'll put it in here first. Okay. Once again, the monkey and the football. What I don't want to do is scratch it on anything. Okay, belt is in. Rotate that back up. I'm gonna have to pop that one back off to slide the cover on. There's a little flapper deal, but I don't have to do that yet. Okay, this one. Okay. Get it kind of locked in here. It's kind of awkward, you know, kind of a, and it's a fully painted piece and it's round on every axis pretty much, so it's kind of hard to keep from rolling off the table or wherever I want to put it. So I think I'll just get it kind of rigged up here where it's not going to take off and hit the floor. Well, that ain't too bad. Got these unstuck so they move like they're supposed to. New bearings in it. Functioning axle. And again, same thing. Got that all freed up and new bearing. Doesn't have a ton of play in it. Need to put the little shield on it. I don't know what they call the thing. I guess keep from rocks from shooting out and hitting your feet. And I need to take some of the slack out of this bracket here. Up here where it bolts to this, it's kind of walled out. So if I don't do that, it's gonna do this a lot. Which isn't really gonna hurt much other than just it's gonna keep getting worse on the pins here and here. So I'll probably take that little guy off, weld the hole, or just oversize the bolt, not sure which, but I will fix that before we button the thing completely up. All I have to do at this point is find a drive belt that'll go around this pulley here, through that hole in the deck to the pulley on the crankshaft. So once I get that done, we'll have a self-propelled machine instead of my self-propelled machine.